Rijksmuseum is the National Museum of the Netherlands, which shows paintings by great masters from the 17th century. Rembrandt, Vermeer, Frans Hals, and it's been an inspiration to Erwin Olaf since his youth. The visual tradition of the Dutch masters, like Rembrandt, has always influenced the visual language that Erwin Olaf speaks. In this exhibition, we have paired works by Erwin and by the Dutch masters that start a dialogue together. This exhibition enables us as the public to look through the eyes of Erwin Olaf at the old masters of the 17th century. But it also does something else. The old masters start to speak with the work of Erwin. And it shows that in Erwin's photography, everything is a choice, as much as it is in the 17th century paintings. How do I pose the girl? How should she look? In the background, we see a stage set. We think it's real, but it's a mock-up. The same goes with the 17th century painter. He had to make decisions of light, of composition, trying to create a scene that seems real. But in both Erwin's work and that of the 17th century, nothing is real, but everything is real. Erwin poses himself often the same pictorial questions as the great painters of the past did. For example, how light is reflected on a surface. With each painting, and also with Erwin, with each image he makes, he respects his portrait. Rembrandt paints people as they are, just like Erwin nearly 400 years later photographs people as they are. On the one hand, without any mercy, every little wrinkle is shown, but on the other hand, with great tenderness. Rembrandt, but also Erwin, shows us as we are, and they find the beauty in every human being. And therefore, his work, in a sense, is a triumph of us as humans. Rembrandt painted himself at the age of 23. It's not really a self-portrait. He is studying the effect of light on his wild curly hair, on the structure of his collar, on his neck. But what he does is a first in history. The most important part of our face, his eyes, he puts them in complete shadow. Rembrandt always does something new with which he surprises us, always forcing the limits of paint, of making a structure with the paint, claying, in a sense, the color that he's wearing of his white shirt. Erwin, in the photograph of ladies' hats, plays with light in a similar way, sculpting the shoulder of his model, but also doing something new, putting a lady's head on a man who reaches out with his neck. Something that Rembrandt often does. He asks his models to reach out with his neck, creating movement. And it's all about the tension and the movement. With Rembrandt, his eyes in the shadow, you don't know what's going to happen. And the same with Erwin, who forces this movement forward, and you feel the energy of his photography. his early work, Erwin tells us a story of liberation, of gay emancipation. But in his later work, like this photograph from the series Grief, he asks us to make a story. We can tell our own story in the photograph. But how do you tell a story? In the 17th century, just like in Erwin's photography, there was no moving image. You have a still image and you have to make it move. Jan Steen, in his toilet, does that in a very clever way. He takes a moment just before or just after a woman getting out of her bed. And it's that moment of dressing, undressing, that makes us create the story. What did she do before? Where is she going to? What's going to happen? With Grief, Erwin does the same. We all know that moment. We have to put on our socks, or we have to button our shirt, and it's that moment of contemplation, of, in a sense, the realization that in a world where many people, we're never alone, but we can be lonely. There is something terribly exciting, erotic and sensual about the back of a neck. And the painting by Gerard ter Borch from the 17th century shows exactly that. A girl turned with her back to us with a beautiful neck. It also has something submissive, something of shame. You turn your back on someone, and in this case we see a brothel scene. The girl is being sold off by her chaperone. And we feel the shame. She doesn't want to look at us. For Erwin's photograph, there is a similar tension. On the one hand, it's terribly erotic, sensual, the surface of a back of a neck. And on the other hand, it's a photograph about submission and about shame. It's this tension that ter Borch was looking for, and more than 300 years later, Erwin is looking for. Erwin is just like Rembrandt, an activist. He shows the raw truth, the other side of us as human beings, unforbidding with great tenderness. He disrupts us. It's unsettling, and yet it's so recognizable.